So today I'm joined by John Mitchell, President of IPC. Nice to see you again, John.
Good to see you, Trevor.
Yeah, so it's been 2 years since we last had this discussion.
Live,
of
yes,
course,
yes.
And you know, a lot's happened in that time. But what are the looking forward, what are the big threats and opportunities out there for the EMS industry?
So I tend to think of threats as opportunities,
Okay.
right? So every time you see something that's a challenge, there's also an opportunity there for somebody to step up and meet that challenge.
Right.
But there's several things on the horizon. So there's obviously right now supply chain issues are a big challenge for especially the EMS companies. You know, getting the parts that you're looking for. Counterfeit substitute parts are a big challenge as well as you look at the supply chain. So that's going to go on for some time. I mean, we're going to have supply chain challenges, and it's not just the silicon chipsets. I mean, there's supply chain challenges across the board. So I anticipate that'll be probably the largest challenge. The opportunity to that is, you know, having smarter systems. So the more intelligent our systems are and the more intelligent your suppliers or your customer systems are, and you work together seamlessly, you can anticipate these needs and challenges earlier and then look for alternate sources. So really integrating the factory of the future types of concepts earlier will help you through challenges like this that we're struggling with today.
I mean, that's been one of the big growth areas throughout COVID, has been these companies that are able to use APIs into suppliers' systems to be able to say in real time what they have available, what the current cost is, etc.
Well, and even doing you know, qualifications or inspections virtually, you know, so they've been able to, so it's saving in travel, you don't have to do scheduling as much. So there are opportunities that people are finding through this, and I think it will change the landscape of the industry going forward.
Yeah, I agree. So what during the last 2 years has IPC been doing specifically to try and help its members during COVID?
Oh, so many things. Just a few examples. So we started early on when it started hitting outside of Asia in March of 2020. Having at the time that we were doing weekly calls, executive calls. So we had an executive forum where people were sharing. It was great because we had companies who had lived through it for a month or so in Asia sharing their know-how with companies that were just beginning to see it in March. And so these calls were very valuable. You get industry, and it was just an open forum. We didn't record it or anything like that. It was just, okay, how do we deal with this? How are you implementing this new challenge or this way to deal with that, et cetera? So those kind of interactions between executives I found, I thought were super helpful.
Right.
We're now down to an every other month cadence, which still is exciting because we talk about, it's not just about COVID, we talk about other things that are challenging the industry. But in addition to that, so like a lot of certifications, a lot of those exams happened face to face. And that was no longer a possibility for people to keep their certifications up. So our team worked overnight practically. I mean, it was just something we had planned on doing in a couple of years.
Right.
They pulled off in a few weeks.
Really?
In doing basically remote proctored exams. So
you were able to do that remotely and know that they were.
Yeah, we partnered with some people that were doing that as well, and then integrated into our exams. So you didn't have to leave the comfort of your own home to renew your certification and things like that. And that continues today. Some places are still enjoying and using that benefit, and other places have gone back to more traditional means. But those are just a couple of examples of the way that we tried to.
Yeah, well, your first example is quite interesting because I mean, a lot of the bigger companies had that ability because they had a footprint in Asia and Europe and the US. But you know, for IPC to be able to bring it to the smaller members, it was all very helpful.
All hands welcome, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you know, we've had a little bit of regionalisation started pre-COVID, but obviously with the supply chain shortages and sustainability coming into becoming a much higher profile in the industry, do you think that's going to exacerbate? Do you think there's going to be a bigger push towards regionalisation?
I think there is a large push towards regionalization. To what degree it takes will be interesting. I think there are a lot of opportunities. I think it's a smart thing to be considering local options, but it doesn't need to be local only.
Right.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I think you should be looking at do you have a way to get your PCBs locally if you needed them? Do you have a way to have your assemblies shopped out to customers, et cetera? Your parts, though, is interesting. I don't expect, to suddenly have a capacitor manufacturer in every region.
Right.
That just won't make sense.
Right.
But I think there'll be some interesting methodologies employed by distributors to have a little bit more resilient supply available.
Right.
That may drive up costs a little bit too, but at the end, I think we'll find some balance there as we go forward. But yes, I see the regionalization trend continuing for probably about a decade. And then at some point, people are going to go, hey, if we don't have a catastrophic thing going on, we can get things cheaper again, and maybe we can go back to a globalized view. But it'll take a while.
I don't know. I mean, I think the other thing that's driving it is the sustainability. Reducing the carbon footprint. It makes no sense to send things halfway across the world.
Unless we can figure out how to do it carbon-free.
Absolutely, but then of course you've got your costs as well. I mean, look at the cost of container ships coming from Asia at the moment. It's horrific.
Yep, the costs have been driven up, but I actually expect those. As we talk with our chief economist Sean Dubervac, a lot of those costs are starting to level off, and we expect they'll start getting back to more normal ranges once travel becomes a little bit more normal again. But we'll see. We'll see.
Right. Okay. So I mean, as this regionalisation does extend over the next 10 years, how do you think that's going to look? Because it's not just chips we need. We need PCB manufacturers more regionally. We need OSATs. We need the whole supply chain.
Yeah, and so we recently launched a report. It's actually available online for free on the IPC website on the advanced packaging situation. It's focused on North America, but it's actually a global view, and I believe we're looking at actually doing a regionalized one just for Europe as well, similar to that situation. Yeah. But the situation is fairly similar. If you're talking about the whole OSAT or IC substrate market, Asia really has a very robust ecosystem for the semiconductor and the relevant substrates and OSAT departments, whereas North America and Asia and Europe, not so much.
Right.
And so I do see, if you're going to invest, a lot of, Europe and North America are talking about making very heavy investments in semiconductors.
Yeah.
But if they don't do the same type of investment for the entire ecosystem, you're just going to be shipping them over to Asia anyway.
Right.
Because that's the only place you'll be able to manufacture them so they're usable. Yeah. So they have to be thinking through all that. And we're advocating for that in both continents. So that sort of entire ecosystem needs to be thought through. And we talked about the chip side. I think there's ways and there's ways, right? There's certain things that you will need to build locally. Other things you'll need to obtain and keep locally, if you will.
Right. Okay. Final question, because I know we've got a schedule here today. Apex has just started,
yes.
And we're looking forward to a busy week. But Omicron has obviously had an effect on the show this year. How do you see this going forward? How do you see it playing out this week, and then looking forward to next year and years after? Do you think trade shows will return to the same levels they did, or do you think they're going to be hybrid events in the future?
So I think there will be a hybrid component in the future for certain things, but there really is no substituting meeting people face to face.
True.
So I expect they will go back to very close to what we've seen in the past, if not exceeding it, because now there's more demand than ever for electronics, and people need to get together and sort out how they're going to meet all these needs.
There's more people coming into the industry, that's true.
Yeah, so I'm hopeful that long term we won't see detrimental impact to us getting together face to face.
Right.
And so that's, we still have great hopes for that, and the fact that we're having the show in as good a shape as it is this year is helps me believe that even further next year it'll be even stronger.
Yeah, well, I certainly hope so. It certainly looks the show floor looks very healthy. There's a lot of equipment and machines on display.
I tell you, I was very pleased to see all the equipment that made it with, as you were mentioning, some of the port issues and challenges like that. As we were walking through it a little bit yesterday, it's like, wow. Yeah, so good to see this machinery actually got here.
Yeah, great. So congratulations on putting together yet another great show, John, and thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you.